Hey everybody, this is Anja here with the Kevin Breeze channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the LG Aristo 5. Let's get started. So this phone has a 5.7-inch LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 295, and an aspect ratio of 19:9. We got a water drop notch here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 5 megapixels. Overall, the bezels of this phone are decently thin, so that's good, but the screen is just a little bit small. Now for content consumption, especially reading, this might be a little bit of a disadvantage, but at the same time, it's not too small. You should still be okay. And the bright side of having a smaller display is that the phone is really portable, it's really comfortable to hold in your hand, and easy to carry around in your pocket. The back is made of a solid matte silver material. It feels really sturdy, and overall, I think the design does look pretty good. The phone is getting 32 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. So for the average user, as long as you're a little careful about what you put on your phone, you should be fine with 32 gigabytes. Now, if you're a power user, you might want to look at a different device with more storage because this will fill up pretty fast. Now, you can put photos and videos on a microSD card, which this phone does support. But if you have lots of apps, especially bigger files like games, then you're probably going to run into some trouble. This phone has no wireless charging, but for security, it does have a fingerprint scanner, which I really like. This fingerprint scanner is located right here on the back. Real easy spot to reach. Let's go ahead and give it a try. There we go, one more time. And there we go, really fast and responsive. I have no complaints. Now taking a look at the rear camera setup, we have a 13 megapixel rear camera and a 5 megapixel ultra wide camera. This phone also has portrait mode in the rear and front cameras. So for what it is, it's definitely a good camera setup. We can also shoot video on this phone in qualities up to 1080p. Now I'm going to be turning it over to Kevin to show you some photo and video samples from the phone.
In general, I would say that with the LG Aristo 5, the camera quality is pretty much on par with what you'd expect from a very affordable budget phone. But if you are coming from a more premium device, maybe a higher end iPhone or a higher end Android device, then I could see where you might be disappointed with the photo and video quality. Overall though, I'll let the results speak for themselves, and I do appreciate that we are getting an ultra wide camera, but the quality with that certainly is not very good. But if you are trying to capture images in situations where the lighting is pretty much perfect, then I could see this getting the job done for you. And the phone actually does a decent job at taking selfies, especially with portrait mode. So in general, just keep in mind what you're getting into here with the phone so that there aren't any surprises. But let's now take a look at some video samples. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a 1080p front-facing test video from the LG Aristo 5. Definitely curious to know what you think about both the video quality and audio quality in this actual video. And here is a 1080p test video with the LG Aristo 5 using the main camera on the phone. We do have pretty quick autofocus in video mode. And here is a 1080p test video using the ultra wide angle camera with the LG Aristo 5.
Internally, this phone is getting 2 gigabytes of RAM with the MediaTek Helio P22 processor. We ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone and it came back with a single core score of 137 and a multi-core score of 486. So it's not really a very strong processor. If you're doing basic activities like sending text messages, making calls, browsing the web, and maybe some light social media use, you should be completely fine. This phone's designed to handle that sort of activity, but if you're getting into the higher, more demanding activities, like photo and video editing, playing games, and that sort of thing, then you're most likely gonna run into a little trouble because this processor is really not that strong. It doesn't have that much RAM. So with those more complex activities, it's gonna either do them really slow or it might crash and not be able to do them at all. For the battery, this phone has a 3000 milliamp hour battery, which is definitely not the best, but it's also not the worst either. The iPhone 12 actually only has a 2815 milliamp hour battery. So yeah, this phone definitely doesn't have the smallest battery, but it's pretty close. You're gonna be able to get decent life per charge, and it's gonna last long enough, but I definitely wouldn't expect anything extraordinary. If you're looking for a phone that has really long battery life and is gonna go for a super long time without wearing out, then you're probably gonna be disappointed with this one. Now that we've gone over some of the specs of the phone, let's take a closer look at the hardware. So up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. On the left side, we have the volume up button, the volume down button, a Google Assistant button, and the slot for the SIM card and micro SD card. I'm not a fan of this Google Assistant button. I think it's one of the more useless features that I've seen on phones. There are other ways you can access Google Assistant, and it's just not useful at all. The only thing I've ever seen this button do is get in the way by accidentally activating Google Assistant when you don't want it to. And with a phone that doesn't have a super strong processor like this one, it's likely to, best case scenario, lag a lot and take a long time to get out of, or worst case scenario, cause the phone to freeze and crash whatever you're actually doing. So I wish this phone, and every other phone for that matter, just didn't have this button. The only time I would say that this button would actually be useful is if you could reprogram it to do something else. On the right side here, we have our power button. On the bottom, we have a 3.5mm headphone jack, the microphone, a micro USB port, and the speaker. On the back here, we have the dual camera setup and the flash, and of course our fingerprint scanner right here. It's a real comfortable, easy to reach spot. I really like this fingerprint scanner. There's also an LG logo right here at the bottom. So overall, besides the Google Assistant button, I think the design of this phone is really simple and practical. Now in conclusion, is this phone worth buying in 2021? I would say it's definitely worth buying if you're looking for a phone for basic activities like sending text messages, making calls, browsing the web, doing some light social media browsing, and that sort of thing. It's really super similar to pretty much all the other phones in this price range, except this phone has a little bit more storage than a lot of them. A lot of these super entry-level phones only have 16 gigabytes of internal storage, whereas this one has double that at 32. The other thing that makes this phone kind of stand out from the other ones in its price range is the ultra-wide camera. Now this is a pretty common feature, but in these lower end phones, not every phone has one, so it's nice that this phone does. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.